250 characters in Galaxy of Heroes, and while the majority of them have some place or can do something cool in game, some of them fall short of the rest. So without further ado, welcome to the first Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes roast. I don't really have a format or structure for this, so we're just gonna go ahead and get on into it. First up is Ugnaught. Ugnaught, you have no good abilities, you have no good factions, you have no friends, nobody loves you, and the best thing you could ever do in game was be used to craft a specific piece of relic salvage before people could actually go into the scavenger and do that on their own. Next up is going to be Coruscant Underworld Police, also known as Cup, who is just so awfully bad that he is now at some god tier meme level where we pretend that he can solo Galactic Legends, a joke that has been funny for 8 years because he's just that terrible. The only thing even slightly redeeming about him is the fact that he has both support and Galactic Republic tags, meaning that he can be used as a courage mule for Mommy Padme and Daddy Gideon. Other than that, he really can't do squat. Next up is going to be Eth Koth, a character who can do everything that Cup can do in a little bit less because his basic doesn't even have the off chance to stun. I don't actually know if he's in the Jedi Council in lore, but he's definitely not on any type of council at all when it comes to Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. His leadership has a grand total of 60 defense, which believe it or not, is only going to get worse in the next couple of characters. Next up, we have Kit Fisto himself, again, a character who adds 45 flat defense to his leadership, which I have mods that can do more than that Kit Fisto, and that's not even the exception when it comes to his kit. That is very much the rule. Nothing you really have going on here is good. You happen to have the magic factions of Galactic Republic and Jedi, so in theory you should have about 6 or 7 homes to go to, and you're not good in any of them. Next up is going to be I'm a Gun Die, who matches Kit Fisto in just about every single way, except for once again somehow having less defense in his leadership than the 2 previous characters, which once again is outbeat by several different mods. And again, having the magical tags is still doing nothing for you because the rest of your abilities really can't do anything at all. Your name is actually a perfect representation for your ability in game because all you're gonna do is gun die. Next up is the next category, which again, we really have no order for this. First character we have is Maul. Maul, the best thing about you is your Zeta leadership, which is about as useful as R2 Smokescreen, which doesn't even require a Zeta and is a overall much more useful character. People, when they see your ship come out, when they're fighting whatever it is, Leviathan or whatever Empire ship, they're excited to see it comes out because it's a freebie. It's an easy win. It doesn't change anything in the battle, except it makes it easier to beat whatever fleet you're with. Overall, you're just a subpar character and you should only really be here in a half sense, just like you were cut in half by Qui-Gon. Next up is going to be Teebo, a character that was once upon a time good in a Rancor raid about 7.5 years ago. We thought you might have had a chance of being good again with the raid, and then we discovered that you only really need 2 characters per team, and once again, your leadership is about as good as R2 Smokescreen, leaving you at a very abysmal, low garbage tier character. Next up is going to be Ewok Scout, a character so bad he didn't even make the cut for an Ewok team 5 years ago when Wicket came out and booted him off of it. You can't really do anything. I guess you can kind of gain a 30% turn meter, but other than that, continuing on with the theme of Teebo, we thought you might have been redeemed through the new raid, but really there's about, I don't know, 30 characters that are better than you that can do whatever you can do on there, except they can do other things as well. Next up is Bodhi, a character who has 3 really good rebel tags and is so bad you don't get to go on one of the 6 rebel teams that exist. If the fact that you're referred to as the pilot but don't have a ship isn't the perfect representation for your uselessness in game, I have no idea what is. Next up, we have our good friend Krennic, who, for whatever reason, most of his kit was specifically married to Death Trooper, a character who has routinely cheated on him for years with multiple partners. Iden, Emperor Palpatine, Veers, and even recently a character that goes by the name of Bag are all superior to what you can give Death Trooper Krennic. You were never a good partner to him. You were always bad. I guess you're somewhat lucky that the fact that you're a geo requirement that people actually bothered to gear you up. You weren't really this close away from greatness. You were this close away from being not totally useless, and you kind of missed the mark. Next up, we have our third tier, which again, there's no real ranking to this. First character we have here is Night Sister Initiate. Night Sister Initiate, you are so bad that we specifically leave you low gear with no mods so that you can die easier to abuse the Night Sister revive and death mechanics. We literally don't want you to be strong. The more gear and resources we pump into you, the less valuable you become. You are better off with nothing than with everything, which is really weird for a hero collector game, considering your kit can't do anything at all. Farm Boy Luke, once upon a time, might have had a shot at being good when we thought that characters might evolve into other characters. Ever since it was confirmed that's not how this game works, we're not playing Pokemon, you have been stranded at being a bad character. We even thought that you were a shoo-in for a Galactic Legend requirement for maybe Leia or JML, but yet they didn't even do that to us, and you're still stuck at Gear 8 for the vast majority of people, except for, I guess, for those getting the Lightspeed bundle. I guess that will make you a little bit happy in your sad, pathetic existence within the game. Next up, we have Talia, a character who could do one thing every 5 turns that now Marin can do every single turn, and about 1,600 other useful things, of which you will never really come close. For some reason, you have a leadership ability. I guess that was a byproduct of the game having none to begin with, but really that's all you have to offer, and for whatever reason, you got a art rework when we don't even use your character in the first place. Next up is going to be Karth Onasi, a character who sucked when he very first came out, and ever since then has had his entire team stolen away from him to teams that can actually do something. And then to add insult to injury, we gave him a TB Omicron, the most useless of all Omicrons. Could have been GAC, could have been TW. We could have given him some type of character from Conquest or a Marquee to make the team good again, but nope, he is set to just die alone, all by himself, without anyone to keep him company. Next up is going to be Tusken Shaman. Tusken Shaman, you only have a place on the Tusken team because the faction has 5 people total. If the Tusken faction tomorrow got a new marquee labeled Dumpster Fire, you would immediately be off the team because you're that bad. The last time you were useful was for a hot raid about 6 years ago when we were still trying to figure it out before we figured out that Vader and Wampa could kind of duel the whole thing on their own. You've never really been good, and it's Tusken shine specifically in 3v3, not because they have an Omicron, because you don't have to be on the team when they're active. Now up and finally to our last 5 characters for the roast. We have Mob Enforcer, a character who had both her art and her kit reworked to then go ahead and do absolutely nothing and be useless on any team that you could ever put her on, despite the fact that her thermals are the highest damaging thermals in the entire game. I guess the only remotely good thing about you is the fact that you don't have an attacker tag, so we can kind of use you for some really weird feats within Conquest while still getting Hut Cartel wins. Next up is going to be IG-86. Once again, another character whose abilities in game can be amounted to about 3 or 4 mods, having only 20% crit damage, 75% crit damage, as well as some extra crit chance. You're literally, the only thing redeeming about you is the fact that there's 3 other characters in game that look like you that are all better. Other than that, you got nothing else going for you and you should be left on the bench. Next up is going to be Hot the Rebel Soldier, a character so bad that when people come to defend your honor, they remind us that you were a platoon character, which is just a really long way of saying you're so bad that you're not good in any single game mode. You're not a requirement for any Galactic Legend. You have no viability in the ship or on ground, but you have to be a platoon character, and that's the only redeeming quality. That's like the lowest tier that you can possibly go to for usefulness. Next up is going to be young Lando Calrissian. Once again, another character who has these Scoundrel and Smuggler tags, yet somehow can't put himself on about 5 or 6 different Scoundrel teams because he is outbeat by every single other one out there. And to add insult to injury, his ship is again one you are pretty happy to see come off reinforcements, because if you have to deal with this, then you don't have to deal with the other 50 ships in the game that are actually somewhat decent. And if we want to talk about how bad Lando is, all we have to do is refer you to young Lando, except for the fact that he doesn't even have a ship. So that is going to make it up for today's video. Let me know of any other characters out there who deserve to be roasted. But until the next time, thank you guys for watching. Stay awesome.